Hello and welcome to Entity Voices Paranormal Evidence. I'm Tony Rathman.
And I'm Cherie.
Chris Allgood.
Audra Keeler.
And tonight we have a very special guest, both the host of Let's Talk Paranormal and author of both Haunted Las Vegas. And sorry, Tracie, the name of your UFO book is eluding me at the moment.
Alien Encounters in the Western United States.
That's it. Yes. It is a pleasure to have you here with us tonight. And I know we have a ton to talk about. But one of the first questions that I think both Cherie and I, and probably Chris and Audra, and hopefully some of our listeners as well, have for you, is that I know that you have been involved very heavily in the paranormal for years. But how did that initially start? I mean, I know that you had an interest in UFOs, and that started with an experience you had in the 1980s, 82 or 86, I believe.
It was 1987.
Okay.
Yeah. And first of all, thank you for inviting me on your show. It's a real pleasure to be here with you guys. And I've been waiting to do this all week. So thank you so much for inviting me. It's great to talk to you and to share what I know. 1987 was the year for me, that it all happened. And actually, I was thrown into the whole paranormal world. I wasn't looking for it. It was looking for me. I didn't know it at the time. And I was a student in London at the Guildhall School of Music and Drama. And I was a musician. I was training as a concert pianist. And I used to practice 7 hours a day with my instrument, which was a very reclusive life. Just me and an instrument for 7 hours a day. It was just, oh my God. So, and one fine day, I happened to have a UFO sighting right out of the blue with my partner that I had at the time, who was also a guitarist, who was my dear friend in the UK to this day. And, we were just talking in the building where we were staying as students. And it was about 2:00 in the afternoon, crystal blue sky day. And we were just talking about a whole bunch of different things, just nothing really important as students, as you do. And something caught my attention in the sky. And I said, what the bloody hell is that? Kind of thing, as we Brits do. And he come running over to the window and I pointed and he saw it. And it was a cone-shaped object. It was pointed at the top and it was rounded at the bottom, a cone. And it was rotating as it was moving through the sky. And I knew that this thing was metallic, Tony, because of the way the sunlight was glinting off it. And as it was turning, it had got some dark portions on the metal. So that's how I knew it was rotating. And very slowly, it moved across the sky, and we stood there, watched it. And I was just totally amazed. I was dumbfounded. And my partner said to me at the time, well, I said, what is it? He said, it's a UFO. I said, well, what do you mean, a UFO? And he told me, because I'd never really thought that much about it before. So he told me, and I said, well, you mean this thing is then piloted by beings from the universe, the cosmos? He says, yeah, it's either come from the universe or it's interdimensional or extra dimensional. And I'm seeing exactly what you're seeing. And so I said, oh, okay. So, I was just gobsmacked at what I was seeing. So we watched it move across the sky until it was out of view. And of course, I couldn't contain myself. I was telling everybody all night, all the students, what we'd seen. And the very next day, I can't remember where we were going, but we were going somewhere on the underground train station. And we get out the other side, the other end of whatever we're going, and there was a guy selling newspapers. And my partner said to me, oh my God, look, there's our UFO on the front of the paper.
So other people had seen it as well.
Yes, and it wasn't a photograph as such. It was more of headlines of UFO seen over the city of London. So other people had seen it, thank God. So we knew we weren't out of our minds. We hadn't been drinking. And it was what it was, and it's continued to this date. I've had over a dozen sightings of UFOs, and they've been daylight UFOs, not just little lights in the sky that you could mistake for a star or a satellite or a conventional aircraft. No, these were solid nuts and bolts daylight sightings.
Wow.
So did that first encounter then spark the interest to, try to find other answers and lead you down the path into the, your former TV show was Let's Talk Paranormal, same name as your radio show, but is that what kind of sparked the whole interest to go down that path?
It really did, Tony, yeah, because it was as if it said to me, you're not going to go down this road that you think you're going to go down as a musician. You're going to go down this one, and you're going to find out what we're all about and what we do.
That I can understand, yeah.
Yeah. So I was pulled in hook, line, and sinker. I could not pull myself away from the subject matter. I was just deeply engrossed in it. And I'd had some personal experiences with beings as well in the house that my partner and I rented, which is too long to go into on the show, but one I had hypnotic regression for, and I'd actually gone missing in Florida for about 4 hours.
Really? Oh. That I was not aware of.
No, I don't tell many people.
That's new information even for us.
Was that Miami Beach, Tracie? Because that tends to happen in Miami Beach.
Do you know, funnily enough, no.
Okay.
But it did happen in Florida. It happened in Orlando.
Okay.
And it was at night. And it was actually past midnight because we'd gone to see a movie late that night. And I'm going to have to hold you in suspense for another show to talk about it because it's going to take a long time to talk about it. Sure. But it all came out under regression, and it was very real what I'd experienced. And I'd had an encounter also in the house that we were renting back in Staffordshire in England. That one I didn't need regression for because I actually physically saw the beings at the bottom of my bed.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it's been quite a trip, I can tell you.
It sounds like it. So, okay, another question that comes to mind just from what you just stated. I mean, UFOs fall underneath paranormal as well as do spirits, ghosts, other sorts of the other side of the paranormal. But did the interest in UFOs lead you into also interest on the paranormal side, or were the two just because they were connected, or how did that? Because I know over the years you've interviewed so many different people about different paranormal subjects, investigators, Cherie and I, and hundreds and hundreds of others. I know you interviewed Michael Keaton when he did White Noise.
Yes.
What a great movie. Wow.
Great show. Even watching that today, still a great show. But
I was thinking, I told Tony, it's what's his name? Not Michael Keaton.
No, you had the name wrong.
Tom Hanks.
Yeah, she goes.
I thought it was Tom Hanks.
But
no, it was Michael.
Yeah, but I was just curious if the interest in the paranormal, because there are some connections between the two, and there's theories going around today that when you have one, you may very well have the other, and even possibly a third presence, which is the cryptids and the unknown source. And it's funny that those worlds kind of collide. And we were speaking with the owners of the Conjuring House last week?
Last week, yeah.
Yeah, and they were saying too that with their paranormal activity, they were having strange objects floating above the house. They had captured them on pictures as well as some of the other stuff you had just stated. So I was just, I apologize, my phone's going off. I was just curious if how that led, how that transpired for you, if it was.
Well, do you know what, Tony? Yes, it all happened in London, and it all happened in 1987. I got a rude awakening not only with the UFOs, but I got a rude awakening with seeing a spirit that was headless.
Ooh.
Yeah, and I was with again, the same partner at the time, Carl, and I can tell you about it. And I write about it in my book, Welcome to Haunted Las Vegas, Nevada. And that really shook me up, because more so than seeing the UFO, I mean, I was kind of, okay, when I saw the UFO, it was no big deal. And I wasn't afraid. I was just curious as to, oh my God, But having seen a headless ghost just a few feet away from me really did it. It really blew my socks off.
That happened, yeah.
Yeah. And what happened was, it was a Friday night, and there were 4 of us. There was myself, there was my partner, Carl, there was 2 friends of ours, Gary and Howard. Howard was a pianist and a harpsichord player, and Gary was a recorder player. And he said to my partner and I do hypnosis as a side interest. Would you like to see a demonstration one night? So we thought, yeah, sure. So we happened to go back to the Guildhall School, and one Friday night, and we got a room where students would rehearse and practice their instrument. And this room was quite big, and there were no windows, and there were velvet curtains that hung from the ceiling all the way down to the floor, so that it could absorb the sound from the instruments and the singers and things. Okay. There was a grand piano in there. There was a harpsichord. And there was a wall of mirror for the singers, so that they could watch themselves singing and how they would breathe. And there was a row of chairs along that side where the mirror was. There was a row of chairs along here, and there was a row of chairs along this wall here. So Gary took Howard in the middle of the room, and he proceeded to regress him and take him back to when he was a small boy. And he said, you're sitting on a hillside and you're underneath a tree, and I'm taking you back to when you were 5 years of age, and further until Howard fell. He caught him, thank God, otherwise he would have smashed his head on the floor, and laid him down, and was walking around and talking to him under regression. And so I sat here, my partner sat here, and there was a wall of mirror right here. So as Gary proceeded to talk to Howard under the regression, something caught my attention by the mirror. And it was about, if I can take my mind back to 1987, I would say about 15 minutes in, about 10 to 15 minutes in, something caught my attention by the mirror. And when you do that double take, when you look and you look again, I did that double take. I never thought I'd be doing a double take of anything. And I did that double take, and it's like, oh my God. And there she was, sitting on a chair. She was dressed in modern day clothing.
Wow.
Yes. And she got I'll never forget it. She got a black skirt on. She got a white top, long sleeves, and she got a black belt around her waist. And she was wearing black high heel shoes. But there was nothing from the neck upwards.
Oh, wow.
No head. And when I was telling Michael Keaton about it, Michael Keaton made a bit of a joke, and he said, sans lid, without the head. Yes, sans lid, without the head. And so one thing I do remember that struck me, apart from her physically being, that there was a physicality to it. I could see through her, but there was a physicality to it as well. And there was no reflection in the mirror, by the way, which blew me away. She had the most beautiful, beautiful female legs I've ever seen in my life. That's what struck me the most. She had the most beautiful legs. And she got her hands clasped like this over her knee. over her knees, and she was just watching what was going on in the middle of the room. So I got the urge to nudge Carl to say, "Oh my God, look by the mirror," but I didn't, because I didn't want to disturb what was going on.
Sure.
So by this time, my heart was jumping out of my chest. It was pounding because I knew what I was seeing.
I can imagine.
And I didn't know who she was looking at because there was no head. But she just seemed the way she was facing what was in the direction of what was going on. So, and she was there a while. So I broke out in a hot sweat and my heart was pounding out of my chest. It is the only apparition I have seen to date. I've had a lot of strange, weird, paranormal things go on in my life, but she's been the only one that I've seen to date like that.
Right.
So in the door to the room was just like a little glass perspex window like that. So you can actually look through the window to see who's practicing in the room. In case you wanted to go in and practice, you could see who's practicing so you didn't bother them, disturb them. And so round about 9 o'clock, we heard the caretaker coming to the school to lock up. So we kind of just gave Gary the hint that, hey, the caretaker's coming to lock up. We can hear him in the corridor. So he wrapped up the whole regression therapy thing with Howard.
Wow.
And we decided to proceed to the pub, as we do as students on a Friday night, even though we didn't really, some of us drank, not all of us. Went to the pub and we just hung out. So when we got outside, I was the first one, and I turned to the 3 guys and I said, "Did anybody see anything in there?" Carl turned to me and he said, "A woman by the mirror."
Wow.
So he'd seen it.
So he had seen it.
He'd seen it. But he didn't want to.
He didn't want to disturb you either.
That's right. That's what happened.
Wow.
So it was very real. We saw it. Of course, there's no way to look her up what had happened because there was no era. She was modern day. She was dressed in modern day clothing. So I just thought to myself, well, she could have been a student. She looked from her body wise that she would have been in her 30s.
Wow.
She could have been a student more so than a professor. And I'm thinking maybe a nasty accident that severed the head because there was absolutely nothing there.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, and that's a real rarity in the paranormal. I mean, people go a lifetime trying to see just one full body apparition, and for you to have been one of your first experiences, that's amazing. That's
right.
Incredible.
I can't remember what came first, whether the UFO sighting and then that. I think that's how it happened. I had the UFO sighting first, and then a couple of months later, there was then that apparition that started that whole paranormal journey. And I just went down a completely different path, Tony, and I couldn't do anything else.
I know exactly how that goes.
Reel me in, it really reeled me in.
10, 11 years ago, I didn't even think about paranormal, and then Cherie came along and dragged me into it, and all of a sudden now I can't let it go. But
the best thing you've ever done now, right?
It absolutely has, and it's about the only thing in my life that I really do feel like I'm going down the road I'm supposed to and want to. But on that note, and that brings up the first video I'd like to play. And Tracie, you had actually contacted me about this and said, "You've got to hear this. I found a voicemail on my phone and didn't even know it was there, and I can't remember, what'd you say, it sat for 8 months or?"
I can look on my phone real quick. It was April the 6th of 2018.
Okay.
Wow.
This one I think you sent me in 19, so it sat there for a year. But this is an amazing clip, and when Tracie sent it to me, it was kind of difficult to hear, so I put it through a bunch of filters and cleaned it up, took out background noise that was distorting from what was being said, and what actually shows up on here is just crazy. And the voices do not sound like a normal human voice would sound leaving a message on the phone. They're very airy, they're light, they sound disembodied. But before I go any further, let me play that for the audience and let them get a chance to have a listen for themselves. So
Okay.
here it comes right now. Okay, that, and like I said, I know you guys can't hear it because you're connected via Zoom, but the the first four words that are said are "We need more Ouija," and then it talks about "Are you there? Help us, save us." Then it says,
It's very, very clear.
yeah, and the voices are unbelievably clear to the point where there's really no mistaking what's being said, and they have that sound to them that just like when we pick up EVPs or even some spirit box communications in our haunted locations, it sounds just like that. And then a woman at the end says, "Don't push me," and then the guy says, "I'm leaving," and it's just it's the most insane voicemail I've ever heard. And there's multiple voices, but not like a crowd. So it's not like somebody's phone accidentally dialed and you're just hearing people talking in the background. These are distinct voices, and but I remember when you sent that to me, and I just thought that was one of the most interesting voicemails I've ever heard.
And you captured this with your phone, right?
Yeah, it was
Well,
a
yeah, but I didn't know it was on there, Sherry. That's the thing. Because what happened was that at the time when I got visitations from my dad, who switches the light on in my guest bedroom, I was telling Tony about it. And Tony said to me, when your dad does that, you need to start doing some EVPs. And I thought, well, what a great idea. Why didn't I think of that? So I grabbed those little, those little dictaphones, because I have like 3 different dictaphones. So I was grabbing the dictaphone or the note taker and didn't realize I had the thing in my phone, the recording device in my phone that would automatically do that on my iPhone. And it was Don that pointed it out to me. Hey, you do know you've got a recording device on your iPhone? I said, no way. He said, yeah, let me show you. So he showed me and I said, oh my God. So I didn't even know I had it. And that's what prompted me to go into my phone. And I saw this from April the 6th, 2018. I didn't know I had it.
Wow.
So something already started to manipulate my iPhone. And I had no idea.
Now, well, they might have very well knew that, as like you said, you were speaking about your father and the interactions that you've had with him over the last, I remember when we came to visit you in Vegas, and you literally had
Record
every date, every instance of what had occurred, what he had done.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was incredible. But they might
Yep.
have known that this was a path that you'd start to go down. But I'm actually gonna play the next one, and this follows along the same lines of what you were just kind of explaining about how you were receiving interactions from your father, and this was a picture. Now, the different clips that I'm playing range from EVPs, except for the voicemail one we just played, but either EVPs that Tracie had captured in her home, and then sent to us to review for her, or were captured on our Evox machine when I was asking questions and trying to reach your father. But this next clip is from the Evox, and Tracie had sent me a picture of some items that she believed her father had actually left for her. And in the picture, one is a penny and the other one is a feather. And I literally was speaking with Tracie's father and asking, what are these items? Did you leave these items for your daughter? And if he could tell me what one of the items were. And you'll hear the response as
This one is a good one.
as I play this. And here it comes.
There's two objects. Can you name one of the objects? You left them for your daughter?
Do you want to play that again?
All right, that one's really relatively quick. Let me play it one more time just so our audience can hear it. Let me just make sure I've got it up here.
There's two objects. Can you name one of the objects? You left them for your daughter?
Yeah, clearly, the two items in the picture were the penny and the feather, and I asked if he could tell me what one of the items was. Now, again, not 100% sure that was your father's voice, but clearly somewhere, someone was looking at it and said feather, and
right.
that was amazing. That was
Right.
incredible.
Yeah, it was, and I don't think it was my dad's voice, to be honest, because I know my dad's voice, and we know that on some of the tests that you did, Tony.
Right.
We distinctly, that's my dad.
Right.
And you got to know my dad's voice. So somebody was watching, and though that feather and that penny was found on the same day, and it was as if my dad was really trying to give me a warning, because outside of this condo was a tree, and my dad would send me hummingbirds and dragonflies to this particular tree, and they were gifts to me. They were messengers, and they would sit for hours, and it was unlike dragonfly behavior, unlike hummingbird behavior. And the dragonfly, for example, would sit for 4 hours and not move.
Wow.
That's not dragonfly behavior.
Not at all.
And I even did some telepathy with the dragonfly, which told me that it was my dad sending it. And I can tell you about that at some point. And the hummingbirds would come and do the same. Not as long as the dragonfly, but the hummingbird would come for about an hour and would sit for about an hour. But I had this tree that they would come and sit in. And I'd ran out and done some errands on this particular day, and it was back in October. And I think it was the 11th of October, 2019. And I found the feather in the foyer or the lobby area of the building that was embedded in some rocks. And I think you have the photograph of that.
Yep.
And I don't normally go through that entrance. My guy had actually had his car cleaned that day, and he said, although we've got a 2-car garage, I can't get 2 cars in it because we've got a load of junk in there that we hadn't unpacked from when we moved, so I could only fit 1 car in. So I would put my car in, and he would park in the space. Well, he'd washed his car, and he asked me if he could, put his car in the garage. I said, sure. So I parked it adjacent to the front of the building. And so first of all, I find the penny on the way to the grocery store. And as I'm in the parking lot, or the car park as I call it because I'm British, I'm looking down on the ground and I find this shiny penny. They're always new shiny pennies. And I remember going to see John Edward, the psychic medium, last May here in Las Vegas at the Red Rock Casino. And he talked about when you see pennies and dimes, particularly pennies because they have the year on them, always check the year on the penny because they are of significance. Well, I started to do it because I've had about 3 that my dad has sent to me, and all the dates have been significant. And that one I found on that day had 2017 on it. That's the year my dad passed.
Oh.
So it was very significant.
Very.
So I pick it up. It's shiny. It's new. 2017. It definitely meant something to me. I put it in my pocket. So I come home. I park adjacent to the side front entrance kind of thing. I showed you the picture. I sent the picture to you.
Right.
And as I'm closing the gate behind me that takes me into the lobby area, there is a display of rocks with a little wall and an urn-shaped thing, like a big vase. And of course, as I'm closing the gate, my eye automatically takes me to the rocks. And there in the rocks is the feather sticking up, embedded in the rocks for me to see.
Wow.
And I walk across to it and I'm like, oh my God, is that for me? And I know that's come from my dad. And it was the most beautiful of colors, beiges and browns, and it's fading into a white, a beige, into a dark color, like a dark gray. And I take a photograph of it and I take it up with me with the penny. Well, I attributed those two things to be gifts from my dad that day because of what I was about to see when I got up into the condo. And I got up here and I put my shopping bags on the counter and I looked straight ahead. And I thought, I'm not seeing things right. And I kind of just rubbed my eyes a bit and I thought, where's my tree? So I wander over to the glass doors, the sliding glass doors, and I open the sliding glass doors on the patio. My tree's gone.
Yeah,
I know you
I
told me.
remember you
Oh.
saying how horrifying.
I couldn't believe it. I was horrified. I looked over the balcony and there is the stump of the tree.
Oh,
The landscapers have chopped my tree down.
Oh.
That my dad would send the hummingbirds and the dragonflies to me. I was mortified.
wow.
And I thought, what the hell am I going to do now? How is he going to connect with me now apart from putting the light on? What's he going to do? So it was as if my dad was saying to me, I got to send her a couple of gifts here because when she gets home and she realizes that tree's gone, it's just going to be no tomorrow. You know, she's just going to be so upset. I've got to send her two gifts to make up for the fact that a tree's been chopped down.
Yeah, you know, and even
Wow.
the fact that you can mentally put those things together, the fact that, like you said, you found the penny and the feather, and the fact that the tree was gone, the fact that you can make those connections and understand the meaning behind them, I think that's incredible, Tracie. I really
Yes, absolutely. And I knew, Tony, I knew my dad had done that specifically because that tree had been chopped down and what it meant to me. It was his way.
I was really hoping that when I was doing that Evox session, or whichever one it was, I can't remember. I know I've done a couple for you, but that he would answer. And we both know your father's a hard gentleman to get to speak. He very quiet man and doesn't say much, but yet the fact that an answer even came and they said feather when I clearly was only asking for two items. And they got it. That was impressive.
And there, look, it's a feather embedded in the rocks.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Look at that.
That's crazy.
And pointing right, sticking straight up for you to be able to see it.
Right up. And you know, it matched the colors of the rocks.
Yeah, it sure does. It blends right in.
Blends right in. And so that, along with the penny and the feather, is all on the same day.
That's incredible.
You know, the colors in that feather represent messages of what's supposed to happen, and a feather that goes from light to dark represents a major life change.
Right. Because you had sent me a chart with all the different colored feathers.
That I did.
So yeah, so you know, like I said, I was mortified that the tree wasn't even dead, and I thought, wait till I see the landscapers, I'm going to ask them why the hell they chopped down my tree, you know. But what are you going to do, you know? But my dad has still found ways of sending the hummingbirds and the dragonflies, and you know, so
As long as they're still showing up, that's what matters.
they're still showing up to this day.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm going to move then to the next video, and this one is actually an EVP. This came off of a session that you had sent me, and let me explain to the audience that, like Tracie said, she would do EVP when a light gets switched on in her home, which is her father's way of notifying her that he's there. And then, like Tracie said, I said, why don't you try some EVPs? This is one that Tracie had sent me. Well, it's a clip from one. And Tracie's talking about, how happy she is that her dad came to visit. And this voice comes in. Again, I don't believe this to be your father, because like you said, we know what he sounds like. But it's still an amazing EVP, a very clear response. And so let me play this for our audience. And let me do that now.
I'm so happy you made my day.
Okay, that was really quick. And the response to it was even faster. So let me play that one more time for our audience, just in case they missed it.
Okay. I'm so happy you made my day.
Again, that's a great EVP.
It is, and it's so clear, and that one's really difficult to mistake what's being said. I mean, it's clearly human voice. It's clearly very discernible as to what it's saying. But again, when you started talking in the beginning about having other spirits in your house, this one apparently was there and was letting you know he was about to leave.
He was about to leave. Good. If you're not my dad, hop it. I only want to hear from my dad. Thank you for visiting, but I just want to hear from my dad only.
Well, the next one I'm going to play actually is your father.
Yeah.
And I was doing an evoc session for Tracie, and I specifically said, okay, let me try to make contact. And Tracie gave me a photo of her and her dad sitting by a water fountain. And I held the photo up, and you'll hear what I say. I literally say, can you tell me who's in the photo? And I'll let you listen to this first before I let Tracie explain how we knew it was her dad. Of course, she would have known his voice, and that's kind of a dead giveaway. But there's other instances that clearly indicate that this is who we think it is. So let me play this one for you.
And I'm hoping you'll be able to tell me who's in this picture.
Okay. Now I know you guys couldn't hear it, but I think you got them all though, right, Chris? I sent them over.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your dad says something very unique, both in the fact that he clearly indicates who's in the picture with him, that's me daughter.
That's my daughter.
Has the British accent, and doesn't say that's my daughter. He says that's me daughter, which you clearly explained that's exactly how it would have been said from
That's correct.
from that
Yep.
dialect, correct?
That's correct, because from where I'm from, in Stoke-on-Trent in Staffordshire, we are a little bit like the Irish or the Scottish people in that we just have a slang terminology for which is me. That's me daughter. That's me mum. That's me dog. That's me cat. It's just a slang term for my. And so that was me dad saying that's me daughter. That's the way we talk.
That's awesome.
That
That's
one, I
awesome.
remember catching that when we were going through it, and even you caught it before I had even spelled out what I was hearing. And that without a doubt is his voice and his tongue of how he would speak. So that one was incredible, and that kind of really opened the door. But I think over all the tests that we've done, I think I maybe only have one other, which is the next one I'm going to play. That we've maybe actually got him. That one for sure, no doubt about it.
Yep.
But I'm going to play that one because I only played that once, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to play that one more time for our audience, just so now that they heard the explanation, they can hear it one more time. And here it comes.
And I'm hoping you'll be able to tell me who's in this picture.
Wow.
You're very, very close with your father, huh?
Very close with my dad, yeah. In fact, when I moved to the United States in 2001, I think my parents were absolutely mortified. But they have another daughter there back in England, so it's okay, But I used to say to them when I used to Skype, I know you don't want to talk about this because they know the subject matter that I was involved in. And I used to say, when you cross over, whoever happens to cross over first, you've got to come back and tell me that you're okay and that you made it and everything was fine. And that the other world is real, like I know it to be real.
Right.
So my parents are skeptics, and big skeptics, especially my dad. And I'd say this, and I'd watch my dad's face as I'm asking them, you've got to come back and tell me that you're okay and you've made it. And my dad would roll his eyes. He'd look away, look to the side, roll his eyes and say, okay, Tracie, like, okay, he's just appeasing me kind of thing. But now he actually knows there is another side. And coming back to let me know that, hey, you were right. You were bang on with that other side thing. And I'm going to show you. And, and this is the light he puts on in the guest bedroom.
Right, yeah, and that's the one I think I used for the picture in the video, but absolutely,
that's the light. Yeah. And, in fact, I think the photograph you originally used, I know that when you first did the Evox test, Tony, you said, I'm looking for a specific gentleman of the name of Dan Austin.
Right.
And all the other spirits started to come in and they wanted to talk. And you said, can all the other spirits just back off? If Dan is there,
hold off and let me try to reach your father.
That's right. And you said, Dan, can you hear me? And we distinctly heard my dad say yes. And it was a very abrupt yes. So I said, that's my dad. That's my dad. And it was the only time on that test that I heard him. He was such a quiet man in the physical life. As below, so above. Right. He's exactly the same there. He's just as quiet. I wish he wouldn't be, but he is. And, I wish he'd be a chatterbox, but he isn't because he wasn't in the physical a chatterbox. And so, it is what it is. And the second one was that test, that's my daughter. And then when I started to do some on my phone, I sent them to you because I couldn't hear it to begin with. You had to sort of clean it up. But he said it a couple of times, I won't leave you.
Yeah, and I was going to play that one, but it was
very soft.
If you're wearing headphones, you can hear it very clearly. But over a live stream like this, I just couldn't pick it up, and
right.
so I didn't use that one. But yes, he clearly said to you, I won't leave you. And then in the second part of that session, he said something about that you were mad at him. And I remember you telling me that, you were upset because he hadn't visited in a while. And so it was funny that he actually did say that. But you could hear it with headphones on. You can clearly hear him say you were mad at me.
Yeah, and I feel really awful, Tony, because I kind of did, because it's like, Dad, where are you? You can't break the chain now. After 2 years non-stop of coming to see me every single month without fail. And I asked John Edward this when I saw John, and I said, John, in all your 34, 35 years of doing this and traveling the world and speaking to people who do have visitations, have you ever known anybody to have visitations every single month without fail? He said, no, I've never, that's unique. That's totally unique. It's very rare. And I've never, ever heard anybody having visitations like that. And as I said to you, it can be once a month or it can be 5 times a month. It's never been any more than 5, I don't think. But February this year was the only month he didn't come to visit. And I think that's why he picked up I was getting mad. Not so much mad, but frustrated. Because it's like, Dad, you know what to do. You visit me every month. Where are you? Have I done something wrong?
Right.
Have I done something to make you mad? You know? So my friend, interestingly enough, in the UK is he's a spiritualist medium. He's also a palmist, UK's top palmist. He's read for Princess Diana. He's read for the Russian mafia. He's awesome. And he said to me back in February, Tracie, your dad has come to me and he's told me he's not going to come as often as he usually does. And I thought, well, but why? What's the reason? And he said it was something to do with, he says, I couldn't quite catch what he was saying other than it was something to do with assisting others. And I thought, oh, is he there now aiding other people that cross over? Well, at the start of the year, he came to me the day after Kobe Bryant passed. I think Kobe Bryant passed on January the 24th. My dad came and paid a visit on January the 25th. And that was the last I saw of my dad until March. And so my friend told me this, Terry, your dad's not going to come as often. So when Kobe passed, I thought, I wonder if he's assisting Kobe Bryant and all those other people that got killed on that helicopter. Because as John and other spiritualist mediums say to me, when you're famous and you pass over, you drop all those labels. You're no longer famous.
Right.
You've done what you've done here. And it's what matters here in the physical world when you're famous. But you drop those labels over there. So you go back to your pure energy spirit again. So I thought, well, okay, maybe my dad's assisting him. So this kind of played on my mind. I kid you not, that same day that I was out running errands, right in front of me was the number plate, 24 Kobe 8.
Wow.
24 Kobe 8. Now, Kobe only just died. So somebody must have acted so fast on purchasing that license plate. But and it was right directly in front of my car.
Wow.
I took that as a sign
Yeah.
that I was correct. And maybe my dad was assisting Kobe Bryant and all the other people.
And I think that's very possible. I remember one time doing a spirit box session, and I don't know who I was speaking with, but I asked him what he was doing, and he said, I have a job. And then I said, you have a job? And he said, hopefully lots of them. And I thought, the one thing that I think about in the afterlife is not having a job. So,
Wouldn't you be officially retired at that point?
Well, that's what I was thinking. But
Please.
then, if you really think about it, there'd be no reason why you wouldn't, because the learning doesn't stop, the helping, the compassion towards others, the whole what supposedly spirit growth is supposed to be about. But I remember when he said I have a job, and I was like, what? And so,
What do you mean you have a job? So I really do think my dad had a job to do, yes, and I think it was helping. And it all happened on that day, which was so weird. As Terry told me, your dad's told me, Tracie, that he's not going to come as often as he has done. And then that happens on that day. I wished I'd have thought quick enough to take a photograph of the license plate, but I couldn't get to it quick enough. But that was what it said, 24 Kobe 8.
Wow.
I thought that's a sign that what I've picked up on and what Terry told me, I feel is correct. So I got no visitations in February whatsoever, and he came back in March. And I think there were three visitations in March, 2 in April, 1 in May the 11th, and I just had one this past Sunday, which was the 8th, I think, or the 9th.
But isn't it a huge coincidence to you, though, that you were informed that, you know, he may not be able to visit as often prior to those pauses happening? To, you know, there's always that information that gives you a heads up to
Yeah.
be able to understand it. So
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And you know, my dear friend is legit. I got 3 spiritualist medium friends in the UK. They're all legit. They're all great at what they do, and they are great resources for this kind of thing. So I absolutely took it on board. And this here is the photograph that I sent to you originally, Tony, of me and my dad.
Yep.
And that was on, that was on my birthday here in 2011 in T-Bone's restaurant in the Red Rock Casino. So that's the one you showed him, and he said, "That's my daughter."
Yep.
That's my daughter.
That was it.
That's awesome.
All right, I'm going to play one more, and this one's more of a whisper. So it's really hard to determine, but you were asking your father, this one's back to the, I can't remember if this is EVOX or
It's
EVP.
It's the EVOX.
It is the EVOX? Yeah, I think it is. I think I said, "Do you have a message for Tracie?"
What?
Yeah, so this is the EVOX. I think Cherie's right. And I was just trying again to get your father to talk and saying, "Do you have a message for your daughter?" And this is what came out. So let me play this for the audience. And here it comes.
Well, I am blown away, Dad, and thank you for coming today and visiting me.
So clearly he says, "I miss you," which is, you know, about the best sentiment you can get, and we can't actually hear it either, so I don't know I can't remember if that was...
the first one, it says, "Do you have any message for Tracie?"
Yeah, I just can't remember whether that was EVP or EVOX. I have to go back and listen, but...
Bless you.
I'm gonna play that.
Bless
Bless you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna play that one more time for our audience because it did come through. The response comes through rather quick. So let me play that one more time. Here it comes.
Well, I am blown away, Dad, and thank you for coming today and visiting me.
Wow, that's amazing. But you know, you're definitely heading down a path that's opening up doors, and you know, the more you send me EVPs, I'm hearing more and more voices from other spirits. And there was even one I remember, they were asking you for help. And you know, have you noticed any type of increase with activity, maybe above and beyond what your father's doing?
I haven't as yet, Tony, no, other than, you know, what I've sent to you. But then again, like on Sunday when he paid me a visit, I didn't do an EVP because it was 10:25 p.m. And I didn't actually know he was visiting. It was Don that came to get me to say, "Hey, you have a visitor." And I said, "What?" And then I realized, oh my God, my dad. So I came in, I said, "Dad, you know, I can't stay long. I'm tired. I've taken a sleeping pill because I don't sleep that great. So I had to take a sleeping pill. And I'm really tired." So I spent like 30 minutes with him. And I didn't think of doing an EVP because I was so tired. And then I don't think I did any in April. As you know, I lost my boy. I lost my cat in April, which totally devastated me. Oh my God. And I've been asking Dad when I did the EVPs, you know, "Do you have my boy? Have you got my boy?" And I know someone said, "I see him."
Right. Yeah, I remember that.
So so I think May the 11th was the last time we tried an EVP, and then the 2 in April. But I didn't try one on this past Sunday because I was just so exhausted and tired. I just wanted to sleep, you know.
Yeah, we know how that goes too.
Yeah. So like I said, you know, I wish my dad would excuse me, speak up more and talk more, but you don't change your personality over there. You don't change your character. As below, so above.
So true.
So your personality's the same.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Say that all
Very
the time.
much so agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
one thing you take with you is that internal self, and that gets molded over a lifetime, and that probably takes centuries to readjust and recoup, and so yeah, whoever you are when you left here, that's what's gonna be on the other side for who knows how long, but
Yeah.
but he was obviously a quiet man, and so we'll just have to work a little harder to get him to speak.
That's right. Yeah. Very, very quiet. Very, very quiet. Not talkative at all. So I'm amazed that I think he's having fun switching the light on. I think he loves to do that because he's learned to do it now. It's like, I can just hear him saying, oh, it's a doddle. We say, oh, it's a doddle, in English. It's a doddle. It's so easy. It's a doddle. I can do it now, But like I said, I hope that between us, if we can keep encouraging him to speak more. At first, I thought it was angels switching the light on. And the reason why I thought that, Tony, was because I went into the guest bedroom to read a book. When we moved in here, a month after my dad had passed, my dad lived in England, as you know, so my dad never saw this place. We moved house. It was a bigger house. We had to buy more furniture. You know how that goes. And so we bought a big bookcase because I have lots of books from publishers that they send me. So when I did my TV show, I could interview the authors. And I sat in the bedroom, the guest bedroom, reading this book because it was nice and quiet. And it was a book by a doctor in Texas, Dr. John Lermer. And he wrote a book called Into the Light. And it's about patients in the care hospice and what they see 3 to 5 days before passing. Exceptional book. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. And so I can't put this book down. And I thought, I don't remember this book. I don't remember having this book sent to me. And I looked inside and there was the letter from the publisher and it said 2007. So I'd had it all that time and never read it. So I sat in the guest bedroom reading it. And I was reading one particular chapter of a woman who had stomach cancer, who was in her late 70s. And she knew she wasn't going to come out of the care hospice because she had stomach cancer. And so Dr. Lermer checked in on her one morning in the care hospice in her room. And she said, I have a couple of questions to ask you, Dr. Lermer. And he said, well, what's that, Mildred? And she said, well, why am I seeing deceased loved ones in my room? And he said, well, in the book, he said, I didn't want to tell her, well, this is what you're seeing because you're getting ready to pass.
Right.
Because he didn't want to scare her and he didn't want to speed up the process of her crossing over. So he said, well, you know what, Mildred, probably they are just popping in to see you how you're doing, like I do every morning, and just checking that you're okay, She says, well, okay, but let me ask you this. Why am I seeing angels?
Oh.
So he said, when she said that, my ears pricked up and I thought, oh my God, I have got to know more about this because this is what his patients were seeing 3 to 5 days before passing.
Wow.
So she says, well, they always stand in this corner of the room and they reach the height of the ceiling, they're thus wide and they illuminate all this beautiful bright white light. And she said, it's a little bit like a light bulb, that the light comes from internally and it is emitted outward. And they said to her, we cannot communicate with you unless you initiate it. You have to be the one to initiate the communication before we can talk with you. So she did that. She initiated it. And they started to talk to her in her head. Well, when I read that, I thought, oh my God. So I sat back on my chair and I looked up and I said, oh my God, I wish my angels would talk to me. I would love my angels to talk to me. Boom, the light went out. And I was shocked.
Yep.
So I sat there for a moment and thinking something else would happen, nothing did. And so I thought, well, okay. So I leaned forward. I looked at the clock on the bedside table. It said 10 p.m. So I thought, okay, I'll put the book up and I'll read it tomorrow. Well, I got up and I walked, literally, I didn't get halfway past the bed. Boom, the light came back on. So I knew somebody wanted to talk to me.
Wow.
So in a nutshell, I scooted up to the bed. I said, look, I don't know who you are. I don't know whether it's you my angels, or if it's you, Dad, I don't know, but I got to thank you for paying me a visit, because I know it takes an awful lot of energy to do that and do what you've done tonight. So I want to thank you for doing that, and feel free to come back and visit when you feel you want to visit. And I left it at that, and I had a moment with the light, and then I switched it off. I didn't tell my partner for a few days because he's very skeptical. He no longer is skeptical, I hasten to add, because the light's been switched on for him to see.
Oh, wow.
And he knows it's my dad. So I reached out to my spiritualist medium friends in the UK by email, and I wanted to tell them what had happened. They categorically said to me, Tracie, this is not angels switching that light on, because angels are of a higher dimension. They don't need to flip lights on and off. They don't do that. That is your dad coming to visit you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
So that's how we
makes
knew.
Perfect sense. Yeah.
That's how we knew.
That's amazing, Tracie. I mean, just an amazing
Yeah.
journey and experience, and hopefully these things will keep happening, and we can keep interacting and keeping an eye on what we can catch and what we hear. But just really wanted to say thank you for taking the time to come on the show and
Sharing your experience with
and
us.
share
Yeah.
those
Oh, yeah,
wonderful
absolutely. Anytime. I wish it had been a 2-hour show. I could have shut up when I talk about this. I just want to show everybody that's going to see this. These are the notes I make on my phone. These are all the visitations from my dad.
Oh, wow.
And they keep coming. Look at all this.
Yeah, she literally document anything and everything, which is probably one of the best case scenarios I've ever seen of somebody literally keeping track of
That's
everything
cool.
that occurred, dates,
Yep.
times,
Everything. Right from 2018, April of 2018, that's when it started.
Wow.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
Well, I wish it were a little bit longer too. Us Americans love hearing British accents. So.
I know. People say to me, "Oh, just keep talking."
Just keep talking.
I say, what do you want to say? They say, "Oh, just read the yellow pages."
Can you just read the names out of my phone?
It's crazy. Oh my God.
Too funny, but so true. But
It
again,
really
thank you so much, Tracie, for coming on. Just
thank you,
some
Tony and Cherie, and you guys. Thank you so much. I really.
you.
I know. Hopefully, we'll be able to talk again soon and get to know you a little bit better. And
Absolutely, Chris and Audra. Thank you.
Yeah, one of these days, Tracie, we want to get you into the hospital just so that you can.
Oh, I'd love to.
You can experience it and see what it's like.
I know she's supposed to come to your birthday.
I know.
oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, the darn COVID.
COVID killed
Yeah.
that, along with 90% of the other things in 2020 so far. But I don't know.
It's
Sooner or
just
later,
delayed.
it's gonna break,
It's just
so
delayed.
we'll see.
That's all right.
But Vegas is opening
Vegas
back
is
up,
open?
right?
Yes, it is. Just a handful of casinos.
Yeah.
Just a handful.
Okay.
All right. Well, Tracie, thank you so much. Chris and Audra, I know that Tracie and I probably dominated 90% of the conversation.
We didn't notice.
apologize.
No. So we get the next hour then.
There you go. It's all
We'll invite her
yours.
back, and you guys, I'll let you guys the next hour with her. But anyway, thank you for the
Thank you,
wonderful time.
Tony.
I am
Thank
going
you,
Thank you,
Cherie.
Tracie.
I am going
Thank
to
you.
end the show with a little Copper Canyon, our hospital, letting everyone know that we've now brought back the 2-hour public investigations, which we had closed up until now, but we're going to reopen so people can take advantage of those again. So I'm going to close with that, and again, everyone have a wonderful night, and thank you again.
Stay haunted.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Hello, I'm Tony Rathman with Entity Voices Paranormal in Phoenix, Arizona. I wanted to let you know that the Copper Canyon Paranormal Research Center in Ajo, Arizona, took a small break from our public investigations, which are 2 hours from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. every other Saturday and Sunday, and every week on Thursday nights. We had to take a break due to COVID, but things are starting to lighten up and people are going back to work. So we're going to now allow those to be bookable again. You can still always book your 10-hour overnight investigation from 7 p.m. at night to 5 in the morning. Those have never been shut down and available to be booked again on coppercanyonprc.com. So please feel free to go and book your 2-hour public investigation, and we'll see you there. Here's a short clip of what it's like in the Copper Canyon Paranormal Research Center. Enjoy.
Oh, did you hear that?
I did. There's a woman in here. Mary, are you in here again? And this is a bathroom. There is a male talking. I can hear it. Are you in here?
Fucking hear that?
Yeah. What the heck was that? What the
Fuck was that?
What the heck was that?
You heard that too.
Oh, absolutely.
That was in here.
It was-
It wasn't outside.
Who's in here? Hello? Oh my God, Chris, did you hear that?
That wasn't you?
No.
Something's in here.
I know something's in here.